Hey there, so we're taking a look at Genshin Impact running on the AMD Ryzen 5 5500U, but this time with 16 gigabytes of RAM. Now the game is currently running at 1080p with all the lowest in-game graphics settings. At these settings, the level of performance that we're getting is passable, though it's nothing incredible. Really, the 1% lows are the biggest disappointment here in the sense that we are dropping down to about 30 FPS. And that kind of puts us in a rough spot because it just makes the experience just not as smooth as you would like it to be. But really, if you don't have an FPS counter up, I think you really won't care too much about this level of performance. I mean, it certainly could be much worse. And if you're used to playing this on your mid-range phone, then you're probably already used to having kind of worse FPS than this. So it's definitely doable like this. You can obviously always drop the resolution if you want, though I really just found this to be perfectly playable, and I ended up just playing the game for a lot longer than I expected like this. Really, I kind of just ended up putting on a podcast and the hours just went by. So I think that pretty much passes the test on whether or not this is a playable experience. But I did also raise the TDP to see if we couldn't level out those 1% lows a bit. And as you see here, it kind of did actually end up helping out a good bit. Now we're pretty much at a 60 FPS average most of the time, and the 1% lows are now just in the mid 40s, which is a good uplift from where we were at before. And really, this is a very welcome uplift, and I think it's one that's kind of been rare with the 25 watt TDP, where a lot of the times we end up finding that it doesn't really increase the performance enough to justify the heat and noise. But in this situation, it kind of does improve the gaming experience overall. Now, as always, don't cook your hardware for this, but if you can actually have this level of performance without getting into dangerous levels of heat, well then this is going to be a pretty great experience. But if you have to stick to the stock TDP, which I completely understand, it's still going to be a playable experience like this, though maybe dropping down to 900p would level things out for you. But considering that this is running at the native resolution of this laptop, it looks really good on here, and honestly I would probably just continue to play this like this. Now really, overall, I consider this game an absolute win like this, and the 16 gigabytes of RAM seem to have helped out a lot in leveling out the 1% lows. And it really makes sense when you realize just how heavy on the RAM stock Windows can be. There are definitely ways to trim down Windows installs so that the RAM usage gets dropped a lot more so that you can actually have more to actually play with in these situations. But 8 gigabytes of RAM is just really so limiting at this point that really having 16 is kind of just the way to go, even for these games that are supposed to essentially be lighter titles. It's certainly not that 8 gigabytes of RAM is unplayable in this game, but overall the experience is just better with 16, even though if you look at our RAM usage right now, it's not really that high. But when you have 8 gigabytes of RAM in total and Windows is already going to be using up about 3 to 4 of that, it doesn't necessarily leave you with a lot for a game, even one that's using this little amount of RAM. But overall, this game is an absolute win on this chip, especially with the 16 gigabytes of RAM. So it's one of those games where if you don't value your time and money, you can get a lot of mileage out of. Just be prepared to lose all your dignity and also your money. But anyways, I'll catch you in the next one.